No, I don't want to be put on YouTube with something. Hey, look at this guy. He said something crazy.
He didn't. He said it was impossible. Then he revised that to improbable.
I don't even really
It's
understand
not
what
possible.
his. I don't really even understand what his view is. You saying God couldn't command the rape of babies because rape of babies is wrong? Is that the idea? And since God is good, he couldn't command something that's wrong?
Yeah, you could phrase it that way. I mean, I've said what I've said, but I'm not against that phrasing of it.
So you think that what is counted as wrong is like logically independent
Well,
of God's nature, right?
I'd prefer to go back to what we were talking about, because usually here it's based on rationality, and my position with atheists is not that I can reason someone into Christianity or anything like that. My position is just that the faith
Your
is
position is to
not
not answer questions and be a fucking piece of shit.
the faith is
And I'm just
not
trying to understand. I'm trying to understand the view.
yeah
You
the
want to
faith
say
the
it's
view.
impossible, right? So one way I can understand the claim that it's impossible is that it's an essential property of God that he's good, right? And that means that in every world at which God exists, he's a good being, right? Perfectly good. And since the rape of babies is bad or wrong or evil, God could not command it, right? Is that the view?
I mean, that's not the way I phrased it. If you want to phrase it that way,
Would you
that
assent to
sounds
that?
perhaps. I mean, what I would say what I said, right? That God has perfect reason, that you would have to lay out a reason, because to me, the commanding or the demanding, right, of a rape of a baby does not follow reason. So if you can lay
What
out
does
to
it
me
mean to say that it doesn't follow reason?
that it's unreasonable.
But what does it mean to say that it's unreasonable? You mean that?
Well, what does it mean to ask what something means, Jack? I mean, come on,
So
man.
I'll give you an example, right? If you say it's unreasonable to take the train, you could say that it's unreasonable to um, to walk to New Jersey rather than take the train if your aim is to get to New Jersey as quickly as possible, right? Given that
Yeah.
aim, it's unreasonable to take to walk rather than take the train, right?
Okay.
So that's a notion of unreasonable I can understand, but that's
Sure.
not the one that's in play here, right?
Okay. So I would say God is the author of human nature. As the author of human nature, it does not follow reason for him to demand something that is contrary to human nature.
Did you understand the question that I asked you?
I believe so, but do I seem to not?
Yeah, I said that's not the notion of reasonable in play here, right?
How do you mean that?
I gave you an
Like, how do you see
example,
the
right? I
difference?
could say it's unreasonable if, in fact, the fastest way to get to New Jersey is to take the train and
Mm-hmm.
not to walk, and my aim is to get there as quickly as possible, right? Then it's understandable that it would be unreasonable to walk given that aim,
Okay.
right? But that's not the notion of reasonability in play here, right?
What is the notion of reasonability
Well,
in play here
that's
in
what I'm
your
asking you, right? Because you seem to balk at the idea that I asked you to define what reasonable meant, right? And I gave you a perfectly common notion of reasonable, right? That people use
yes.
every day, right? But clearly, that's not what you mean when you say it's unreasonable for God to command rape, right? Because it's not in virtue of it not conducing to some aim of God that it's
I
unreasonable.
would say in the that example, I would say the similarity is it's not conducive to the end of human nature to command that. So you having perfect reason as God does and exercising it, he is not going to command something that's contrary to the end of human nature, which I see baby rape as. Now, if you can set forth the situation in which baby rape is not contrary to the ends of human nature, I'm willing to listen to that.
So when you say the end of human nature, I take it that's God's end. When you say the end of human nature, God's aim is for human nature, what, to be a certain way? Is that what you mean?
I'm saying
Because
that
I was talking about God's ends, right? So when you say the end of human nature, are you talking about God's end?
I'm saying that God created
And
humanity,
I
right? And
just answer the question, right?
I am.
No. Just, it's a simple question. It's a yes or no question. So just tell me which it is, right? Because I said that the Newark case, New Jersey case, was disanalogous because it's not the case. I thought it was not the case that it was in virtue of it not being in conformity to some end of God's that it was irrational for God. It would be irrational for God to command raping children or something, right? And you contradicted me. You said no, it is in virtue of some end of God's, right? And so then you started talking about the end of human nature. And I just want to be clear that you're saying God has some aim. When you say the end of human nature, you're talking about some aim of God's, right? Is that the idea?
Well, I'm saying there's something inherent to human nature which was
I'm not
created by
asking you that.
God. There's an end, right? And
I'm just
ultimately, I could phrase it this way.
get clear on this. So, does God have an aim with respect to human nature, yes or no?
Are you asking in the creation of human nature, did he have some end that he created for us to reach?
Do you need me to go
some
through the
ultimate end?
dialectic again to understand why I'm asking this question?
I'm just want to clarify if that's what you're asking. Are
Look,
you asking
I'm
that
just going to
in
go through the
creating?
dialectic again. Listen carefully this time, okay? So, this all started, right? You claimed that it was unreasonable for God, it would be unreasonable for God to command to rape children, right?
It seems that way to
And,
me.
okay, fine. So, I was trying to understand what you meant by reasonable, and you resisted giving me a definition, right?
Well, I'm
You
not
made
resisting.
fun of me, in fact. You said, what does it mean to ask what it means, right? Now,
Yeah, I mean, you use
that says to me, what
tactical
that says to
instruction.
me, what that says to me is that you're a dishonest piece of trash to say something like that,
Well, I
right?
think you're poopy, Jack. I do.
Shut up while I'm
Okay.
talking. Shut up. That says to me that you're a dishonest piece of trash, right? But let's just leave that aside, right? And give you the benefit of the doubt that you're not a dishonest piece of trash, right? So what I responded politely was, well, here's an everyday notion of reasonability, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that's where I gave the example of going to New Jersey, right?
Right.
And walking rather than taking the train.
Can I
And it's
ask a question
perfectly
about that?
okay.
Are we saying that's unreasonable because the end that we're after is reaching New Jersey in a timely manner?
It's exactly right.
Okay. So what I'm
That's a
saying, the
perfectly, just a
proposition.
minute, I'm going through the dialectic again because you didn't get it.
Okay.
So that's a perfectly everyday notion of reasonability, right? And so
Sure.
the reason why I asked you if to define reasonability, because it didn't seem like the kind of reasonability you were invoking was that kind, right?
I think it's yeah. I'll wait till you're.
And so then you contradicted me and said, no, it's the same thing. God has some end in view, and it's not in conformity with that end, right, to
Mhm.
command rape. So commanding rape doesn't conduce to this end that God has in view, right? Now
Okay.
I've spent about 5 minutes trying to get clear, right, on you started talking about the end of human nature. I don't know what that is,
Sure.
right? But I've been trying to get clear on that this is your point when you talk about the end of human nature. You said God has an end in view. Is that the end that you're talking about, what you're calling the end of human nature? And what is that end?
Sure.
So the question is, Question is, in the analogy with New Jersey, right? Because my aim, the end in view there is get to New Jersey as quickly as possible, right? So if you want to say that the analogy holds, then in this case, right, there's an end in view, right, which commanding the rape of babies would not conduce to, just like me walking does not conduce to getting to New Jersey as quickly as possible, right? So when you talk about the end of human nature, is that the analogous end that you had in mind? It's a yes or no question.
I'm sorry. At the end there, it cut out just
So
slightly.
I'll just repeat it. Is what you're calling the end of human nature the relevant end in view that's analogous to New Jersey? Sorry, to getting to New Jersey as quickly as possible in my example? Is what you're calling the end of human nature the relevant end that God has, that commanding that one should rape a baby does not conduce to? Is that the relevant end? That's a yes or no question. Yes or no?
I believe so.
Okay, good. So just don't say anymore. So we're going to go with yes. Yeah, you can revise it later. You guys usually do that. You walk it back, dishonest people like yourself. All right, so then yes. Okay, so now what is the end of human nature, and how is it that commanding the rape of children doesn't conduce to that? I'm trying to understand why it's unreasonable.
Okay. So I think a way to describe the end of human nature would be to say man is created to praise, reverence, and serve God, and by those means to save his soul. We could work off that.
That's what God wants human beings to do?
That is, he created human nature, and that's part of human nature.
Meaning that's what God that's how God desires human beings to be. Is that the idea? Yeah, but is that a desire that God has of how he wants human beings to be?
He created human beings that way.
And in virtue of creating human beings that way, right? It was in conformity to his desire of how he wanted human beings to be. Is that right?
I'm not sure the importance of the word desire.
Doesn't matter whether it's important or not. I'm trying to get you to answer the question.
I don't understand how you're using that word desire.
So when I aim for something, right, the idea is that I have a desire to bring that thing about. That's the way I want things to be, right? So if I want there to be a window in my kitchen shelf door, right, I might hire somebody to install one, right? Because what I want is a window in my kitchen shelf door, right?
Okay.
So I assume that what you have in mind is that God wants people he's designed people to fulfill this plan that you described, right? He has a desire for human beings to be that way, right?
I mean, is there something that's following there that you're wanting me to say desire?
I just want you to answer that question.
Okay. Well, here's how I'll answer it, and I said what I said. God created.
Just tell me whether he has a desire for human beings to be that way or not.
It's how he created.
It's a yes or no question, so I don't know what the problem is. Is it yes or no?
Well, the problem is that I feel, that you lay out, you have this sort of panel thing here where often it's, many people's versus one, and you lay out what you feel are traps. And then you ridicule someone for not stepping into a trap. So I just want to, I don't want to be put on YouTube with something, hey, look at this guy, he said something crazy. So I want to be very deliberate and careful with what I'm saying. So I said what I said, that God created human nature, and human nature has ends, right? There's certain ends, and there's certain things that are good for human nature to thrive, and some
And none of
things
this
that
is
aren't.
an answer to the question. What's the answer to my question?
I'm saying what I'm saying, and if that's something that you feel you can't have a conversation with someone
you
choosing
saying
their
what
own
you're
words,
saying. I don't understand that. It's not an answer to the question. Why aren't you answering the question?
I explain why.
Because
I'm not
you're
answering
worried
the
you're going to
question,
look
Jack.
like a fucking dumbass when you answer it? That's the reason?
Well, I think the purpose, it's not about me personally, no. It's, you have a certain way of going about things. I've observed it for, a few days. I haven't been on Clubhouse too long, but I've been in other situations, not necessarily with atheists, but with people who are similar to yourself. And I've seen this before. And I'm not interested in making a great YouTube clip for you. So I'm going to say what I have to say. If you're interested in hearing it, that's fine. If you're not, that's also fine. But to try and make it, I have to say your sentence. I said what I said, Jack. It's
No,
not
I
some
asked you to
crazy.
answer the question. You
Well,
don't have to
here's my
say my
answer.
sentence. I'm not giving you the answer, right? I'm asking you to tell me what your answer is. I'm
Well,
not giving you the answer.
my answer is what I said. God
No, the
created
answer to
human nature.
my question. Not you just saying something that's irrelevant to what I'm asking. You could say anything. You could say you had cheesecake today and you're going to have cheesecake tomorrow. That's not an answer to my question, right? I'm asking you, what is the answer to my question? Are you saying you're not going to answer the question?
I'm saying I'm answering
That's
it, but
another
you might
yes
not
or no
like
question.
it. Yeah, I mean, I don't have any obligation to your
Yeah, so
yes or
you're
no
just saying
question,
you're not
Jack.
going to
I just
answer the
don't.
fucking question. So why
I'm telling
engage
you
in the
what.
discussion in the first place? I don't get it. Right? We're trying to understand your view, right?
Well,
Whether it's
are you?
coherent or not. Yeah! Yeah, I'm trying to understand your fucking view, you fucking dumbass. Right?
Well,
That's why I asked you the fucking question, because I don't understand your position. Right? It's important for me to understand how you answer that question, to understand your position, you fucking dumbass. Right?
Yeah, well,
So if you
you
don't
seem
shut
to
up,
think that you disagree with
shut
me,
your
so you
mouth.
think this is the way to get something
Shut your
that you want.
mouth
But
while
to
I'm
me, I
talking. Shut
disagree
up
with you,
while I'm
Jack.
talking. Shut your mouth while I'm talking. Right? So I
Jack,
just
I'm
don't
talking.
understand. Shut up. So I don't understand, right, what kind of game you're playing when I ask you that question and you just dodge. Why would you engage in the discussion in the first place if you're just here to play games? I don't get it.
Are you done, Jack?
Hey, I just asked you another question.
I understand. I
Yeah,
just don't
what's
want
the
to
answer
interrupt
to
you,
that
Jack.
question?
I think that you are playing games.
All
I
right.
think
Why
the
are
way
we
that you
why
set
are we
these
even
panels.
why are we even entertaining this guy?
Well, because hey,
Shut
listen to what
up,
I
shut up. I'm
said
not
about
talking to
human
you.
nature.
I'm not talking to you. I mean,
Okay, that's fine.
who's running the room? Delano or Haiti or Tom? Like, what is the point of having a person like this on the stage? I don't get it.
Right,
Yeah, I think this guy's
because I'm
worthless.
not jumping
Yeah,
into your
so can you
trap.
just remove him?
Go right ahead, and then put that on your YouTube that you had to remove. You couldn't have a discussion with someone. That's
What do
fine.
you mean
Go
have
right
a
ahead.
discussion? I ask you whether God desires for human beings to be a certain way, and you respond, I have cheesecake every day at 5 o'clock. That's a
Yeah, but
discussion?
Jack, that's not how I responded.
You didn't answer the fucking question, did you?
Here's my answer. God created human
It was a
nature.
yes or no question. Is that a yes or no? Whatever you're about to say, does that boil down to a yes or no?
Jack, have you stopped beating your wife, Jack?
Oh, are you saying there's some premise in my question
Yes.
that I'm attributing to you which you don't hold?
Yes.
So then why didn't you just fucking say that and tell me what the premise is that you reject that my question presupposes?
I don't know what it
You
is,
don't know
Jack.
what it is? You just
Jack,
said, have you stopped beating your wife, right? And I said, oh, is what you're trying to say that the reason why you don't answer the question is because there's a premise there, right, that you reject. There's a premise in the question that you reject, right? And so
right,
therefore
but
it's a loaded question. And I just asked you, what is that premise? And you said, I don't know. So which is it? Is it a loaded question or not?
I have reason to believe that it is. I do not know your exact,
What
what
is
your
the point
next,
of this person?
what's
He
the
has
point
like
of
an
He
this,
thinks
Jack?
that every one of your questions.
it's an intuition
Yeah.
about like a belief he has that he doesn't know that's included in what you said.
The problem
Well,
is,
this is like
none of the
beyond
questions
John
he's
Lee.
asking are actually
No, Jack, I've said this morning. That's exactly what I said this morning. I think he's the most.
Yeah, I agree with you. I
dishonest
agree with you.
person
This level of dodging, this is
ever.
like beyond Darth
Yeah.
Dawkins, beyond John Lee. It's just like, it's in the, it's just,
broke all the records.
it's in the clouds.
Hey,
Right.
Rooster,
He won't
you
answer
wanna
any
talk?
question. And Jack, when I talked to him, when I asked him why he won't answer questions, do you know what he told me? Get this. He said, "Well, you guys are throwing knives at me. Why wouldn't I dodge a knife?"
But I mean, if that's his attitude, why is he even engaging in the first place? I don't get it, right? He
Because
shoots his mouth off, right?
You're going into a knife shop and then complaining that people are going to throw knives at you? What's wrong, Rooster?
Well, I think anyone
Well,
listening can, besides certain people who are speaking, anyone listening can hear that my answer is God created human nature, and human nature has certain ends. So to want to rephrase
Your
it,
answer
I need
is
to
that
rephrase what I've
cheesecake.
said.
Your answer is that cheesecake. You have cheesecake every day at 5 o'clock, right? You can answer anything you
that's
want
not
to
right.
any question that way, right? But that isn't an answer to
No, it's
what's
not
being
right.
asked. Still, we don't know whether your answer is yes or no. And if you object, well, the problem is that it's a loaded question. You need to show how it's loaded. It's perfectly reasonable. It's perfectly reasonable to object that it's a loaded question, right?
Mhm.
But then when you
Yes.
object that way, the burden is on you to explain why it's loaded.
Okay. Could
Hey,
we have?
Rooster, you like my PFP?
Could we have? Albedo seems like he was wanting to speak, and I think he may be able to clarify things. I think he often is able to.
Well, one thing I want to tell you is he's not trapping you. He's asking you yes or no questions so that he can understand what you believe. Now, there's going to be entailments of those beliefs, and
Sure.
they might lead to things that you don't like. Now, if you really want to learn, just find out what they lead to, and then you'll have realize that, oh, I don't like this belief. Then you'll just have to revise one of your other beliefs. No big deal.
Game over. Game over. Lights out.
Yeah, that's fine.
You've just been completely obliterated. Publicly.
Shut up while I'm talking, right?
You've been folded like a chair caught with your pants down.
Will you fucking shut him up? I want to respond.